The courage to quit. Why giving fewer chances creates more growth. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with Eve Lynn Johnson for the Soft Girl Era podcast. For those who don't know Eve Lynn, she is nothing short of a revolutionary force in the realm of personal empowerment. Her life's work has been dedicated to helping women, particularly high achieving Black women, reclaim their power through what many might consider radical, the simple yet profound act of setting boundaries. Evelyn doesn't just talk about transformation, she embodies it. Her approach has literally saved lives by giving women permission to prioritize themselves in a world that constantly demands their sacrifice. During our conversation, Eve Lynn posed a question that stopped me in my tracks. A question so deceptively simple, yet so deeply disruptive that I haven't been able to shake it since. Why do we typically give people so many chances before we either quit loving them or quit loving ourselves? Let that sink in for a moment. We live in a culture obsessed with persistence. Never give up isn't just a motivational poster, it's practically encoded in our DNA. We celebrate the person who forgives one more transgression, who extends one more chance, who keeps trying despite overwhelming evidence that nothing will change. And yes, there's beauty in that kind of resilience. But tonight, I want to challenge everything you think you know about second chances. I want to propose something that might feel uncomfortable, even heretical. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stop giving chances. Sometimes the most loving choice is to walk away. Sometimes quitting isn't failure, it's the beginning of freedom. This isn't about becoming cold or unforgiving. It's about something far more nuanced and powerful. It's about recognizing that our capacity to love both others and ourselves depends on our willingness to establish boundaries that honor our worth. Evelyn shared three insights that completely reframed how I understand this delicate balance. First, self love sets the standard. The way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. This isn't just inspirational fluff, it's practical psychology. When you consistently override your own needs, when you repeatedly accept behavior that diminishes you, you're not just hurting yourself, you're establishing a pattern that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Eve Lynn shared a powerful affirmation during our interview. Uh, I am worthy of respect without having to earn it, and I will no longer participate in relationships where my dignity is negotiable. Those words hit me like lightning. How many of us have stayed in situations, professional or personal, where our dignity was treated as optional? How many of us have accepted crumbs when we deserve the whole loaf? The second insight is equally transformative. Boundaries empower growth. When Eve Lynn says, saying enough can be an act of courage that opens new doors, she's pointing to something profound about human development. Growth rarely happens in comfort zones. It happens at edges, at boundaries, at the places where we say this far and no further. Every time you set a boundary, you're not just protecting yourself, you're creating space for something new to emerge. You're saying, this doesn't work for me anymore, which is the first step toward discovering what does. And finally, Eve Lynn challenged the conventional understanding of resilience. True resilience isn't just about endurance, it's about discernment, knowing when to persist and when to pivot, recognizing when holding on is actually holding you back. As she beautifully put it, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is put down what's heavy instead of proving you can carry it. These insights aren't just theoretical, They're being lived out in remarkable ways by people who have discovered the power of selective investment, of choosing carefully where to give their chances. Consider Sadiq Cornish, founder of the Pacific Town Club in Los Angeles. Eve Lynn highlighted his story as a perfect example of what happens when you stop giving chances to systems that weren't designed for you. Cornish faced exclusion from traditional clubs and outdoor spaces where Black professionals were underrepresented. Rather than continuing to seek acceptance in environments that consistently marginalized him, he made a pivotal choice. He stopped giving those space chances to include him and instead created something entirely new. The Pacific Town Club emerged during the pandemic as a standalone community centered on sports, not as an offshoot of existing structures, but as its own entity designed specifically to foster belonging among Black athletes. Today, it stands as a thriving hub where members feel seen, supported, and empowered through shared experiences outside conventional boundaries. What's remarkable about Cornish's story isn't just what he built, it's what he refused to keep trying to fix. By redirecting his energy from seeking inclusion to creating it, he transformed not just his own experience, but an entire industry's understanding of community. This pattern of transformative boundary setting appears again and again when we look closely. Eva Lynn also pointed me toward the MB's Tribute to Women, an annual event honoring women leaders across business sectors. What makes these honorees special isn't just their professional accomplishments, it is how they achieved them. Many began their careers feeling pressured to overperform out of fear they wouldn't be given another chance if they faltered. They said yes to everything, worked impossible hours, and prioritized everyone else's needs above their own. Their breakthrough moment came when they stopped giving endless chances to toxic workplace cultures and instead embraced assertive communication about their values, including when to say no. These women discovered that setting limits wasn't career suicide. In fact, it was the opposite. It led to higher satisfaction rates at work, improved team dynamics, and enhanced mentorship pipelines built on mutual respect rather than overextension. One honoree shared a mantra that Eve Lynn particularly loves: no is a complete sentence that doesn't require justification. Think about how revolutionary that concept is in a world where women, especially Black women, are socialized to explain, apologize for, and justify every boundary they set. Perhaps the most compelling example Eve Lynn discussed was Stacy Spikes, whose memoir Black Founder chronicles his journey navigating startup culture as an outsider. Spikes faced repeated setbacks from industry gatekeepers who undervalued his contributions despite multiple attempts at collaboration and reconciliation. After years spent trying one more time on okay with unsupportive partners and investors, Spikes had a realization that changed everything. True progress required walking away, even from familiar faces, for the greater good. He stopped giving chances to people who had repeatedly demonstrated they wouldn't reciprocate respect. Instead, Spikes redirected his focus inward, choosing projects aligned with his values rather than continuously seeking validation from those unwilling to see his worth. The result? He launched successful ventures rooted in authenticity and became an inspiration for other founders facing similar crossroads. What these stories share is a fundamental truth that Evelyn articulates so powerfully. Quitting the wrong things creates space for the right things to flourish. This isn't about becoming bitter or closing yourself off from connection. It's about becoming selective about where you invest your precious energy, time, and hope. It's about recognizing that every time you say yes to something that diminishes you, you're saying no to something that might help you grow. Every time you give another chance to someone who hasn't earned it, you're denying a chance to someone who might actually deserve it, including yourself. Now, I can already hear the objections forming, but what about forgiveness? What about compassion? What about not giving up on people? These are valid questions, and they reflect values worth preserving. But here's what Eve Lynn helped me understand: forgiveness doesn't require continued exposure. Compassion doesn't demand endless vulnerability. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling patterns that hurt you both. As Evelyn says, you can release someone with love while also releasing yourself from the responsibility of their growth. This wisdom applies beyond personal relationships. It extends to professional environments, creative pursuits, and even our relationship with ourselves. How many of us keep giving chances to versions of ourselves that no longer serve us? The perfectionist who never feels good enough, the people pleaser who can't say no, the workaholic who measures worth by productivity. Perhaps it's time to stop giving those outdated selves so many chances to run our lives. During our conversation, Eve Lynn shared a scripture that guides her boundary setting practice. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. This ancient wisdom acknowledges something modern psychology confirms. What we repeatedly expose ourselves to shapes who we become. So I stand before you today with a challenge that might feel uncomfortable, but could change everything. Identify one relationship, one situation, one pattern in your life where you've been giving chance after chance with diminishing returns. Now imagine what might happen if you redirected that energy towards something or someone with greater potential for mutual growth. This isn't about abandonment, it's about alignment. It's about having the courage to admit when something isn't working and the wisdom to create space for what might. Remember Eve Lynn's powerful words: the moment you stop giving chances to what depletes you is the moment you start giving permission to what fulfills you. Today, I invite you to give yourself permission. Permission to expect more. Permission to demand reciprocity. Permission to walk away from what diminishes you so you can walk toward what expands you. Because your life is too precious to spend it waiting for people and situations to change when they've shown you repeatedly that they won't. Your time is too valuable to invest in relationships that consistently take more than they give. Your heart is too important to leave in hands that have proven careless with its care. So ask yourself, what would happen if today you gave yourself one less chance with someone else and one more chance with yourself? What doors might open if your next no was actually your boldest yes yet? The answer to that question could change everything, not just for you, but for everyone your fully empowered self might touch, teach, or transform. Thank you